The time is now 7 o'clock.
The report card for Busan's September job figures, it's in, and it doesn't paint a really rosy picture of the state of the city's economy. The number of newly hired people in September actually decreased considerably compared to the same time last year. And the number of businesses also went down, some due to low spending, others because of the changes in industries. So there are some aspects that just cannot be helped as industries are rapidly changing. But there are some things that can be helped even in the middle of these inevitable changes, as these matters are directly linked to the people's livelihoods. And we need to take every measure available. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave of Busan on Friday, October 18th on BEFM, 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Friday. And we're going to begin with our top story. Unfortunately, not a happy story. It's a grim one, at least as far as the city's job figures are concerned. So in the month of September, the number of people who newly found jobs came to 1.7 million. That's a drop of 12,000 people compared to the same time last year. And in particular, the situation wasn't good for the construction, retail, and restaurant industries, which also declined in jobs. On the contrary, there was an increase of jobs in the manufacturing industry and public services. And at the same time, there was also a decline of 32,000 business owners. However, some 25,000 people were newly added to the waged workers category. So experts analyze this. They think that there was a phenomenon of people who closed down their businesses, finding jobs working for someone else. So where does, this leave us? Where does this what does this show us? The thing is that there are some positive aspects. However, some negative as well. So does this paint a picture of how our industries are going to fare? Well, apparently it shows which industries and sectors are seeing an increased demand to warrant more hiring. And so hopefully we'll be able to see some recovery across all sectors. Of course, that's what we're hoping for. But definitely, and the ones that are very important to our city, we will be keeping a close eye on all of this. All right, so now it is time for our text topic. Here we go. If you could treat someone to something, who would it be and what food would it be? It could be anyone, someone you love or someone you don't like, but maybe you want to, reconciliate with them. 자, 이 사람 에게는 땡땡을 대접하고 싶다. 그리고 그 사람이 누군지 if it's too personal, I can kind of paraphrase. Let me know. 미운 사람도 있을 테고요. 그리고 잔소리하는 직장 상사에게도 소중한 친구. It could be a wide variety of people who you would just, want to treat to a nice meal. Yes, so 대접하고 싶은 음식 그거 대상자가 누구인지, and most importantly, why? Why would you want to share a meal with this person and, for you to treat them? So that's what we're talking about today. Send in your messages to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. Search for BEFM, 부산 영어 방송. And what you do is you subscribe, you log in, and you can chat with our other waivers. Also, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can also reach me for free on our Kakao Talk channel. Same thing, search for BEFM or 부산 영어 방송. The ways you can listen to us, so many different methods. First up, on the radio dial, 90.5 or 103.3 FM, depending on where you are in Busan. Like I said, We're streaming live right now on YouTube. You can listen to us on that platform later on, whenever you like, multiple times at your leisure. And also, we have two apps, the BFM app and also the Patbang app, where you can listen to all of our programming. Looking ahead to our Friday morning together. So we have Casey, who's coming in for Foreign Press Highlights. This is where we highlight Korean issues, but from the perspective of foreign outlets, as the title says, and Vasana with Perfect for Friday. What in the world? Like, really question marks in our heads as we're listening to the stories. So our special interview today, we're going to be focusing on measuring blood pressure. The key question is this: are we measuring it correctly? Maybe not we ourselves, but whoever is taking the blood, who's measuring it for you. Are we doing it is there a right way? Don't we just kind of slap on the armband and press a button? Isn't that how it goes? Well, we're going to find out if there is a difference in how to take those readings. That's in hour number 2. I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06, and these are today's headlines. Israel claims Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar killed in Gaza. The leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, has been killed in southern Gaza on a targeted military mission against suspected senior members of Hamas at the location. North Korea says its constitution defines South Korea as hostile state. North Korea state media said yesterday that its constitution clearly defines South Korea as a hostile state, highly suggesting that Pyongyang has amended its constitution in line with leader Kim Jong-un's order. South Korea voices deep regret over Ishiba's offering to Yasukuni Shrine. South Korea voiced deep regret yesterday after Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba sent an offering to a war shrine in Tokyo, seen as a symbol of its militaristic past. Ex-Seoul police chief, acquitted over Itaewon crowd crush. A Seoul court yesterday issued a non-guilty verdict for a former head of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency over the deadly 2022 Halloween crowd crush, citing lack of evidence. Foreign Ministry strongly urges missionaries in Lebanon and Israel to leave. The Foreign Ministry yesterday urged Korean missionaries in Lebanon and Israel to leave the countries as soon as possible amid escalating regional military tension. And these are today's headlines. Let's say TGIF to Haley. Good morning.
Good morning.
Our favorite days here.
Yay.
And we can kind of see.
Not really. No, you can see
a little. It's not
like
pitch black.
Peak of, well, that's true. It's not
Yes.
as bad as a couple of days ago, but maybe there's a news of rain. So yeah,
Oh
a
no.
little bit of a spoiler.
You bring bad news?
I'm bearer of bad news.
Yes. Well, today we're talking about 대접하는 거, or treating someone to a nice meal. So first, who are you choosing? Why? What are you guys going to eat?
It's very specific.
Okay.
But, my friend, shout out to Tonga. She's with child. She's pregnant. But she also has to be very careful of what you eat because,
Yes.
well, she doesn't have, but like, the gestational diabetes, that's a thing. She's like waiting for a blood test, but she like is very careful. So very specifically, cauliflower crust pizza. Dead air.
Dead air, silence.
She's like, why? What? Because it's her favorite food.
I mean, I
It's
like
pizza.
cauliflower.
Right, but because it's not great for you. It's not a well-known superfood in the world, pizza. So,
Right.
and like, I mean, amongst everything bad is also the crust, which can also like spike your blood sugar. So, there's a thing of people making pizza crust with cauliflower.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
we're meeting in a couple of weeks, so I'm looking at recipes right now. Yeah, I know. I'm such a good friend.
Cauliflower crust pizza.
No one's saying it, so I'm going to say it. I'm such a good friend.
You are. You
Yeah,
are.
I mean, how good is
So
the pizza
thoughtful.
going to be? I don't know, but let's just say it's the thought that counts.
Is it going to be edible?
I'll tell you in a couple weeks. So if
Let us
anybody
know.
has recipes, waivers, let me know.
All right. First, for our update, we're going to talk about a perpetual problem in Busan. Our water source. We talk about it time and again. And there was a forum held yesterday, recently to address this issue, right?
Right. So Busan City, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also lawmaker Kwak Kyu-taek's office, they jointly hosted this discussion forum to talk about ways to supply clean water, especially as we are on the lower estuary of Nakdong River.
Right.
So one speaker, Sejong University's Professor Meng Seung-gyu, compared the situation in Busan, interestingly, to the Netherlands, of all places, because it too is located on the lower end of the Rhine River. So neither of us get really clean water sources.
Sure.
However, unlike Busan, the country doesn't use chlorine to filter or clean their water, which is the
Right.
case in our case. That's where we sometimes get that smell. So what they do, they have diversified water sources of groundwater, jiasu. And when that's not available, they have these intake centers from the banks of the river. And as a last resort measure, surface water, so from running rainwater. So basically, the point is you need multiple sources to get clean water.
I see. And what are some of the options that are being discussed?
Right. So experts say that domestically in Busan, they are looking at or they're proposing underground water storage systems because how we store water right now is reservoirs, pool, right? But because of climate change and, we get very unexpected or unpredictable levels of rain, that becomes less reliable. So they're proposing putting all of that underground. Also, other experts pointed to, ultimately fundamental solutions to improve the quality of river water, first of all.
Yes. So that is what's being discussed with, of course, our water source. Another long-term issue in Busan. Empty houses once again. But there is apparently a new method to address this age-old problem.
Right, because we do live in an age of drones. Busan Metropolitan Police, they are starting to use drones to increase security in these empty houses. But here's the thing about drones, and this applies to like civilians as well. I know they have gotten very popular, very pervasive, but you still need permission to fly them, especially if it's over certain areas or if you are going to have cameras on them.
Sure.
So the law has been revised to allow for law enforcement to use drones for crime prevention. Because previously it was only allowed to be used by law enforcement for searching missing persons.
I see.
So now the police can fly the devices in and around and between the homes in the neighborhood. And if they detect an empty home, then the police can visit that home in person and conduct inspections rather than having to knock on every door.
I see.
So how they're able to do this, the drones can utilize thermal imaging. So if they can sense the heat of humans inside the home,
Sure.
then it's not a problem.
Yes.
And also has zoom of up to 30 times. So the police will use the drones to look into neighborhoods in Seogu, Yeongdo-gu, Namgu, and Chunggu. And the head of Busan Police said that concerns have been rising from the communities over the crime risk of these empty houses. So the police will utilize drones and also increase in-person patrolling and add more surveillance cameras to ease these concerns.
I see. So definitely this is for the betterment of communities to keep them safe. All right, next up, the National Sports Festival wrapped up in Gimhae. And Busan has taken the torch.
Right. So the 105th National Sports Festival, or Jeonggukchejeon, and also the National Para Sports Festival, they held their closing ceremonies yesterday. And Busan City took the proverbial torch, but the literal flag for next year's competition. So the closing ceremony also featured a performance from Busan as the next host city, showcasing our history and culture, along with a video presentation and a performance by Busan City's Metropolitan Dance Company. So next year, we have this massive national sports festival to look forward to. And that'll feature some of the country's biggest sports stars and athletes. And this is the first time in actually 25 years that Busan City is hosting this event. So mark your calendars for next year, October 27th to the 23rd. And for Para Sports Festival from the 31st to November 5th. It'll be mainly held at the Asiad Main Stadium as well as other venues.
Yes.
So now with about a year left, Busan City is in full preparation mode with the handing over of the flag, and the city vowed a successful event in this global hub city of Busan.
Ah, yes. So once again, October 17th to the 23rd. All right. So next up, I know many people are trying to get their hands on the latest copies or a copy of Hanggang's works, but you can also get them at the library.
Right. See how my hands are empty? Because I was supposed to get my copies yesterday, according to the bookstore.
Yes.
But I mean, I understand. It's been delayed. I will begrudgingly wait.
Yes.
But you can also get them at the library. And you might be wondering, well, Haley, every copy has been checked out.
Yes.
Well, they're getting more. So Busan Library, the main branch in Sasang,
Yes.
it's launching various programs to delve into the works of this latest Nobel Literature Laureate. So the library says that it recognizes, number one, it's almost impossible to immediately get a copy of her works.
Sure.
So the library is actually putting on a special checkout and reading event. So they have actually, you can donate gently used copies of various books. So they have like hundreds of thousands of copies of books that have been donated. They've picked out all of Hanggang's copies from that ocean of
I
books.
see.
So they also have a special exhibition of Hanggang's works, and also, while you're there, other Nobel laureates' works, along with books by winners of other literature awards. So once again, this is all at the Busan Library in Sasang.
Such good news, because the fact that people, I love the fact that people donate books.
Right.
Probably at the time they didn't know.
Exactly.
That
Now
it
they're
was gonna be
probably
like this.
regretting it, but because also books are not cheap. So if you're, gonna get a whole collection,
Sure.
you might want to read them first.
Right. Last, here's a festival that you might want to check out this weekend.
Right, so that is the Busan Chinatown Culture Festival. It kicks off today through Sunday. So this is at the Busan Station Square as well as around Chinatown. The opening ceremony is tonight at 6 p.m. with a performance by the National Kugak Center of Korea and traditional Chinese performances. And there will be various cultural and maybe more importantly, culinary
Yay.
events going on. So definitely do check it out.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Now back to you, the waivers. Today it's a Friday, but it's kind of a thinking Friday. You got to think about this one because, yes, we're giving you so many questions all into one. First up, if you could treat someone to a nice meal, who would it be? What would it be? Meaning, what kind of food and why? And it could be someone that is really close and dear to your heart. Or it could be somebody that you really don't get along with, but maybe you're trying to turn over a new leaf. So think about that. And here's your traffic and weather. Here's your traffic report. There's congestion on the Dongso overpass from Bumnegor ramp to the old Kegum toll gate. Also backed up on Luno Samsung-daedo from Myeongji underpass to Shinho Bridge. And also traffic on Nakdong-Namno from Hadan intersection to Haguwon Bridge. As for the weather, it's currently 21 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies. Rain is forecast starting in the afternoon. Looking ahead to the weekend, well, that rain, it's going to continue till tomorrow. So you can expect a low of 21, a high of 23 tomorrow on Saturday. But temperatures will drop significantly on Sundays. You can expect a low of 14, an afternoon high of 19. And this was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for News Digest. So with Haley, we're going to delve into our first story. We finally have some sort of conclusion to this ongoing long saga, the Deutsche Motors story involving the First Lady.
Right, it's a conclusion, perhaps
Okay.
not the conclusion, but the prosecution has concluded that there's no criminality with the First Lady, at least with the Deutsche Motors stock manipulation case. So
Okay.
they are not pressing charges. So from the top, because this has been in works for 4.5 years. So the allegations first surfaced back in 2020. This is when now President Yoon Suk-yeol was then Prosecutor General Yoon Suk-yeol. So still a very much public figure. But a complaint was filed against his wife, Kim Gun-hee, and her mother, so the president's mother-in-law,
Yes.
that they allegedly colluded with those who attempted to manipulate and raise stock prices for Deutsche Motors, which is a dealer of BMW cars here in Korea.
Right.
Because bank accounts under Kim Gun-hee's names and also her mother's names, they were used in these manipulation schemes between 2009 and 2012, allegedly. And in not just one or two cases, but there were 98 suspected stock manipulation cases. Kim Gun-hee's bank accounts were used in 47 of them. So, right, quite a bit. And then fast forward to last month. So her alleged colluders, Deutsche Motors chairman Kwon Oh-soo and several others, they were found guilty in the manipulation scheme, including a man surnamed Son, who allegedly financed the scheme. So Son and the First Lady are kind of facing similar him charges, her potential charges. But and this had prompted calls from the opposition parties because the First Lady is facing similar allegations that she should have been charged with abetting the manipulation as Son had been.
But the prosecution, did they not reach a different conclusion?
That's right. So this conclusion was seemingly based on how involved, so to what extent these individuals were involved in the stock manipulation case, at
Right.
least according to the prosecution's findings. So prosecutors, what they did, they saw Kim's alleged involvement as being different from that of Son's, because Son was apparently, in direct communication with traders that were involved in the manipulation scheme, but unlike Son, Kim Gun-hee wasn't aware of that scheme's existence. So
I see.
her name was unwittingly used in the scandal. And prosecutors also concluded that Kim entrusted her bank accounts to the former Deutsche Motors chief for financial investment proceedings. So once again, she didn't know how or where they were going to be used. By the way, this is expected to be controversial because in terms of who reached this conclusion, it was a red team, which is an internal team within the prosecution.
Okay.
But usually when there are political implications and potential controversy, the prosecution usually brings in an outside team of experts.
Yes. Hence, I'm sure we'll continue to hear about this story. It's
right.
not the end. Well, the next story is a very heavy topic for Friday, but it needs to be covered. Lonely deaths.
Right. So 고독사, as it is called in
Yes.
Korean. By the way, there is a trigger warning. We're going to be talking about death and also suicide. So the number of people dying alone in South Korea, that's been increasing. We're looking at almost 4,000 every year.
4,000.
And this is, of course, now a serious social issue.
Right.
So according to Health and Welfare Ministry data, last year, 3,661 people died alone, and that accounts for a little over 1% of all deaths. So official record taking for this lonely deaths or 고독사, it began in 2021, at which point there were 3,378 people. So that number has been increasing as well. So the ministry says this is partially due to a statistical reflection because number one, there's an increase in single person households in general. So more
Yes.
people are living alone.
Sure.
And also these lonely deaths count not only those who lived alone, but also those who may not have lived alone physically, but were in social isolation.
So do we have a breakdown based on age or gender? Because, I don't know, as heavy and sad as this is, I think we need details so we can better,
Understand and
socialize
right, and respond.
with other people. Yes.
Exactly.
Is there
So-
a pattern?
Right. There was a rather distinctive pattern,
Yes.
which of course isn't good news, but in terms of at least where we can pinpoint resources, perhaps it is, okay news. So men in their 50s and 60s was basically the most prominent group. People in their age group of 50s and 60s accounted for 60% of the total of these lonely deaths. And then once again, very much a gender aspect as well, with the victims or the deceased most prominently being men, accounting for the vast majority. So experts say that there were also other patterns of personal history, like a death of a spouse or divorce. So these men were likely recently became single.
Sure.
As well as chronic illnesses, prominently with alcohol. So, and vulnerable housing conditions.
Okay.
So this particular age group, there was also an economic aspect. They tended to have just retired or lost their jobs. So they were in social isolation because losing a job doesn't only lead to an income problem, but you don't communicate or you don't socialize with other people.
cut off, yes.
There's no one to know if you're missing, especially if you live alone. And the thing about this age group, 50s and 60s, well, in Korea, for the elderly, for seniors over 65, there are check-in systems, but if they're in 50s and 60s, they kind of tend to fall through the cracks.
Indeed. And it seems that also one's employment also had a big impact on other age groups, not just for this demographic.
Right. So now let's take that even to younger generations, 20s and 30s. So lonely deaths in this case wasn't much of an issue, but suicide definitely was.
Sure.
For those people who died alone, who died by suicide, 70% were those in their 20s and over half in their 30s. So experts say that these cases, they had to do with jobs, whether they had failed to get a job after a long period of trying or they had just recently lost their jobs. So expert called for support along these lines, seeking out populations that may be vulnerable and also forming a tighter social safety net.
Indeed. Well, thank you for going over the details. We have a better picture of who might be vulnerable. Right. Next, though, we're seeing some changes in the makeup of homeroom teachers in schools.
Right. So
Like, who are they nowadays?
담임쌤, right? Because teachers are hesitant or some are just flat out refusing to become homeroom teachers.
Yes.
So more contract teachers, 기간제 교사, they're being forced to, they're being pushed to fill this position.
Okay.
So this is according to Education Ministry data released by Democratic Party lawmaker Jin Seon-mi. About 15% of all homeroom teachers nationwide were contract teachers. That figure was actually the highest at 21% in Busan. So 1 out of every 5 homeroom teacher is contract teacher.
Okay.
But this is actually weirdly skirting the law because the law says contract teachers cannot be hired for supervisory roles, in which case 담임, homeroom teacher would be one.
Yes.
That have heavy responsibility unless there's a need to make use of that individual teacher's experience or expertise. So basically, maybe a contract teacher was a full-time teacher but had like retired or quit and is taking a lighter role, then that teacher who has ample experience may be used,
Right.
but not perhaps in other cases. But the thing is, full-time teachers, by the way, that also comes with job security. You cannot be fired, at least easily.
Yes.
They are maybe comfortable saying no when the principal or the vice principal asks them to take on a homeroom teacher role.
Their job's not on the line.
Exactly. But then that may be being dumped to the contract teachers whose contracts do rely on evaluation by their superiors.
Sure.
So lawmaker Jin Seon-mi called for the education ministry to come up with measures so maybe some teachers aren't being burdened with things that they cannot say no to.
Exactly. And, and you might think, well, there's a lot of additional work.
Right.
For
Oh my
homeroom
gosh.
teachers. That's
Right.
why all the admin work. So, all right, for our final story, we're going to look into the claims made by Ukraine that North Korea is sending its troops to assist Russia.
Right. So the Ukrainian government says that its military has evidence that North Korea may be sending soldiers to Russia on top of weapons. And actually, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke about this explicitly on Thursday local time.
Yes.
After he attended the EU summit in Brussels, he says that he has intelligence that Pyongyang is sending some 10,000 soldiers, or at least getting them ready. However, he further explained at a NATO meeting that the soldiers have not begun moving to Russia, but that North Korea has already sent some tactical personnel and officials to regions in Ukraine that are occupied by Russia.
Ah, yes. So how extensive is this potential deployment? Because, we're hearing about, some numbers being thrown about, but do we know?
Right. So this is the biggest question. So a Russian military source, so this source was addressing to an earlier report that some 3,000 North Korean soldiers may be getting dispatched. So a Russian military source on a condition of anonymity told foreign press outlets that a number of North Koreans have arrived in military bases north of Vladivostok, which is right on the border to North Korea. However, they did refuse to give a concrete number. However, they denied that they were anywhere near 3,000. So perhaps not. But then once again, these are soldiers that have allegedly arrived as opposed to what Zelensky is arguing are getting prepared to potentially be dispatched. Also, though, about how they will be used, because there are clear language issues,
right?
Sources are saying that they wouldn't be incorporated into the military so easily, but that it may be a sign of significance increase in number one, the relationship between North Korea and Russia.
Sure.
And also number two, a sign of desperation by Russia in getting conscript soldiers from its borders.
Yes. Well, of course, this is one that we will keep an eye on as well. Thank you for going over all the hard news, and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right. Well, I'm going to read at least one message for right now. Before we get into our first song break, I have a message from Young who says, "Hi, I would like to host a wonderful dinner for you." I think that means me. Morning Wave in Busan team, because you cured me of depression when I was very weak mentally. And he adds at the end, "Thank you so much for that." I'm like, I saw that. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, we
My
need
mic
to
is
take him
off,
out.
but it's fine.
We love you, Young. So fighting. And I have one more. I know there's a song break, but I have to read this one because it's from Lee Sun-young Waver, who says, "I'm a 44-year-old immature adult. My mother is battling cancer, and I want to make a delicious meal with my own hands and treat her. Even after I got married, she always made side dishes for me, 반찬, as gifts. I have only received food all my life, but when my mother recovers, I want to treat her to the food she likes. So I want to make mugwort soup for her." So mugwort is suk. So she would make some sort of suktang or something made soup, brothy with the suk. Wavers, you can't do this to me on a Friday. I don't want to tear up, but how about we take a song break, okay? 좋다 by Daybreak.
사랑 노래가 너무 많았어. 어떤 노래로 고백을 할까? 처음 본 순간 fall in love with you. 미칠 것 같은데 널 사랑하는데 네가 있어 좋다. 사랑해서 좋다. 다른 말로 설명할 수 없는 이 기분 너무나도 좋다. 너와 함께하는 이 순간 영원히 간직할 이 기분 멋진 말들로 꾸며댈수록 나의 마음을 가릴 것
Thank you for that song request, Benny. All right, back to our main topic story today. Today, we're talking about the city's economy. And while many businesses have been closing down, the situation has been particularly bad for this category, gas stations. So as of this September, there were 351 gas stations in Busan. And that's down from 427 in 2018. So you can just hear that number gap. So there were 427, now we have 351. This pattern of decline was evident across the country, and experts point to several reasons, some temporary, some a reflection of the changing times. First, gas prices. They've gone up, and this has cut down on demand. There is higher competition from brands that offer cheaper rates. And finally, there's a rise of EVs, electric vehicles, which have all impacted profits for these gas stations. The thing is, many of the gas stations that have closed their businesses have not officially filed for closure, as that requires additional costs to dismantle all the facilities on site and, that's right, to clean up the soil in that area. So this creates potential sites of abandoned businesses, similar to the abandoned homes issue. And that can cause issues and headaches for the neighboring areas. So these gas stations closing down may be a part of a natural flow of, the change in times. But there are definitely things that maybe can be prevented. Can it be helped? Big question mark. There's lots of questions, and I hope we can get some answers. Now back to you, the waivers out there. I want to ask you, if you could treat someone to someone, 이 음식을 이분에게 대접하고 싶다. What is it? The food, for whom, 누구, and why? 왜? What's the reason? Is what we're asking you. So, those two first messages just really got me right here. Also, in terms of other messages that have come in, I believe Tori Neem, she was mentioning that she has a upstairs neighbor, a little, 꼬맹이, as she phrases it. There's a little bit of interfloor noise going on. But she says, I think this is really nice, that she would want to treat the little child to a little treat. But I've not thought of that, of befriending the person that's making noise. So that means, Tori Neem, you have such a huge, huge, cute heart. All right, we're going to get to Cat's Pick for today. For today's Cat's Pick, I love Fridays, and on Fridays, I always try to find some kind of uplifting clip. So here it is. A dog. Again, a dog clip. I don't care how many times I come up with these stories. It's from ABC News.
A dog is being hailed a hero after saving its owner after a bad fall. The dog sprang into action, flagging down a deputy for help. And now the dog's owner and the deputy are staying connected after the ordeal.
That's a good puppy. You're a hero, you know that?
An 84-year-old Washington man thankful to be alive after being rescued by his dog.
Boy, you got a pretty good dog, I'll tell you that.
Keith Johnson was letting his 13-year-old dog Gita outside when he says something just felt off.
I got disoriented and dizzy, and I fell over, and that's when I knocked my hip out of joint and cracked it.
Johnson was completely immobile for several hours with Gita by his side when he asked his dog to go find help. Moments later, Deputy Sheriff Colton Wright driving by, seeing a lone Gita on the side of the road. When he tried to get the dog in his car, he says she refused.
She had pulled away from me. So I got out and was trying to urge her to continue on. And then she just stood up and looked at me and looked at the driveway and looked back at me.
The deputy sheriff quickly picking up Gita's signals and sprinting into action, finding Johnson on the ground.
That's your dog right there, right?
That is.
Yeah, that's a good dog, man. I tell you that.
Yep, she is. She's my best friend.
Keith taken to a hospital, undergoing surgery, and now recovering at a rehabilitation center, all thanks to his Gita.
I get choked up thinking about her. She knew what she was doing. I tell her I love her every time I talk to her.
Deputy Wright says that the two are in contact every day, and he expects that they will remain friends long after Keith makes a full recovery.
And did you hear Keith's voice kind of wavering at the end, just thinking about his beloved Gita? I was very curious about the name too, so I looked it up, Gita. The origin of this name, Sanskrit, and it means lovely song or poem. And I think that is poetic justice for a dog like Gita on a Friday. And this was your pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time to focus on our lumberjack in the studio, Casey. Look, she's doing a scan. If on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Do you like the scan?
That was very disturbing.
The body scan.
I was disturbed by myself.
She was judging you with the camera.
Yeah.
Could you tell she was like scanning?
Oh yeah, that was a once over. Is that what they call
that's
that?
a once over.
She gave me the once over.
Yeah, with a camera. You're good with a camera, PD today.
Yes.
You're just like, So
should you have done that? Perhaps not.
I don't know. Oh, can we call you Brawny Man? Okay, lumberjack in Korean, what is it? 발목군?
And you knew that. How did you know that word?
I don't know. Because I can't remember like difficult words, but that one I knew.
That's a weird one to know.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting. like it was something like you used to like daydream
so
about.
발목군.
Balmokgun?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I don't know how I know it. I don't remember. But
that's very cool.
I got to ask you our text topic.
Oh, okay.
So if you could choose a person that you want to treat, like meal-wise, who would you like to have some sort of meal, dinner, let's say?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be someone you really like. It could be someone you hate. That you want to get over.
Oh, you would want to have that kind of
I don't know, turn over a new page maybe, or somebody you lost contact with, just giving you ideas. And who would it be? What would you be dining on? And like, why would you choose this person?
Oh, wow. All right. Honestly, this is the first time I've heard this question, so I hadn't had any time to think about it.
Okay,
and
no
the only
prep.
thing I can think about is I would like to talk to a lumberjack about what he does.
About his job.
Yeah.
It is fascinating, though.
Yes.
Yes.
I just started thinking about how hard that work is and like what got you into that. Do you know what the word for lumberjack is in Korean? Because I can now teach you. Balmokgun.
So that's what you were saying.
Yeah, it would be cool to like sit down with somebody who like I have like no similar life experience with. So yeah, why not?
That is amazing, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, connecting.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into our first story.
What a weird answer.
Yes. So weird. But
Thank you.
What's it about? Where's it from?
Okay, so actually, and we've been talking about this story a lot, and these stories keep coming out every week. There are stories about adoptees from Korea who typically seems to be placed in Europe or especially the United States, and this is from the Associated Press.
Yes.
So a lot of their stories seem to be U.S. focused, but the story that came out this week is kind of just somebody's personal life, and you kind of want to be careful when you talk about it because it's not entertainment. But this was fascinating to read. I couldn't stop reading it.
Sure.
So the headline for this was, a South Korean adoptee needed answers about the past.
Right.
She got them, just not the ones she wanted. So even in the headline, it could come off as clickbaity, right? It could come off as like, all right, read more for the details. And the details are fascinating. It's almost like reading a book. It's almost like you feel like you're almost looking at a movie script.
Sure.
But the thing is, the whole reason I wanted to share this story, because it's a really amazing story about her life, but also how she's turned her life into helping others.
I see. Yes. So tell us more about her. I mean, I'm so fascinated already.
So she's an artist. Her name is Rebecca Kimmel. That's her adopted name.
Sure.
And she has no idea what her real name is. So that's kind of how it starts. Yeah. And it's almost like I said, it's almost comes off like a movie where somebody like loses their identity or has no identity and they're searching for it. And that's been her recent life search. She's very passionate about everything she does, but she wasn't always this way. And this is a term that they come up with in the article and kind of explain. a lot of people who are adoptees, they spend their childhood in what they call the fog.
Yes.
Which just means like they're kind of happily ignorant about their roots, and they don't really question their adoption. Her parents told her this story that they said she'd gotten left. She was abandoned on the street in Gwangju. She was sent to an orphanage by police. They had a slip of paper on her clothing, listed her birth date as the day before she was found, August 4th, 1975. And then she was adopted in Maryland 6 weeks later, and that's the end of the story.
So if we had to do some just, guessing, probably not maybe accurate? Or
no,
is that,
not possible, right?
Right.
So she's an infant found on the street. She could not have been born the day before she was found. So she doesn't know her exact age. So this is another thing she doesn't know. She thinks she's about 49 years old. Can you imagine like just not knowing?
I mean, for those of us who are not from an adopted, situation, how we have a sense of identity. I'm sure most of us do,
right?
And we know, what
we
her
take it
name
for granted.
was, and then we always so who named you?
Right.
We have all of these ties to our families, right?
Right, and we just kind of take it for granted that we know these things about ourselves.
Yes.
And just imagine if you suddenly realize, this is not true.
Yes.
She doesn't know if her name is possibly Chung Jo-hee or Chung So-hee, and I guess the Korean writing, the Shiat and the Jiat could be, if written poorly,
yes,
could be not clear. So even these things she doesn't know. No information about her biological mother or father either.
Well, you mentioned this kind of fog.
Yeah.
This ange.
Yeah.
This fog. So how did she kind of emerge from that fog?
There was something that always kind of bothered her. So in addition to her birthday, which was arbitrary, apparently, every January 21st, her parents would celebrate Arrival Day, which was kind of like a second birthday.
Yes.
That was when she, came to the U.S. or went to the U.S.
Yes.
And she always found it kind of like slightly embarrassing, but the intentions behind it were sweet. And they would show her documents and baby pictures. But one of the photos that they showed her from South Korea didn't match her pictures from the U.S., like what she looked like in her baby pictures from the U.S. And she's always like, well, that's kind of odd.
Yeah, that is.
And then, she's like, why is that? Why did I look so different? And she was like, well, her parents were like, well, babies change.
True.
And then she was always kind of had that in the back of her mind. And then 2017... she says that's when she kind of suddenly came out of the fog.
I see. So what happened?
She just was searching for Korean makeup tutorials online.
Okay, so random, but yes.
Right. And then she came across Korean adoptions and she fell into this whole world. And it's like a movie. It's like she discovered this whole thing going on that she had no awareness of. So in 2017, she went to a three-day event in San Francisco with hundreds of other Korean adoptees. And then she was meeting people, sharing ideas, sharing feelings. And she suddenly realized, okay, now I'm 42. If I want to find out who my parents are, how much longer are they going to be alive? So I have to do this now. And it just motivated her completely.
Yes. So what did she end up doing?
She's an art teacher.
Yes.
So she stopped her classes. She suddenly made a trip to South Korea here in 2018, suddenly excited.
Sure.
She's got all these people that she's connected with. And then she went to the place where she was supposedly dropped off as a child. That had closed down. But a doctor recalled working there and recalled somebody being left there. And she said, oh, it's me. It must be me.
Yes.
And then it turns out some details don't match. That child was taken care of by a grandmother, so okay, it's not me. And this was like a constant cycle. She kept finding who she thought was herself. She found more pictures, and nothing ever turned to match once she did further investigation.
Aww.
But through this process, she discovered a photograph of what she really feels is her twin sister.
Really?
She feels. So she, using these documents and contacting more organizations, which is not easy, by the way. A lot of the adoption agencies were like, this is not your information, this is our information. And she's like, how is that possible?
Right.
Why can't you tell me about me?
Yes, it's like, I want to know.
Right.
I want to know my roots. So.
And that was the case. But through all this discovery, she reconnected twin sisters with their father, who's still alive in Jeju.
Wow.
And it was completely unintentional.
Right.
But through the process, she was like, I'm going to help this family out since I can't help
other
Miss
adoptees.
Right. And this kind of led her to where she is now. She's constantly helping other adoptees. She works with a website.
Story.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Amazing person. So
giving to others.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she still, unfortunately, hasn't found out about her own roots.
Yes.
But she's able to help a lot of people on the
I
long.
hope that one day she does it because it looks like she really wants to find out where,
of
where
course.
she's from.
Right.
where she came from. It's very natural. So thank you for sharing the story.
Yeah, really interesting read, and there's so much more to the story, so I highly recommend reading it.
All right, we're going to get to our next story, which is about...
In a weird tangential way,
Yes.
also kind of about a Korean culture and especially related to women, but it's also connected to Malala. Do you remember Malala?
Malala?
Yeah.
Oh, well, but how's this connected to Korea?
Okay, so yeah, all right. So I'll give you the headline first. This
Okay.
is from the BBC.
Yes.
And the headline is How South Korea's Real-Life Mermaids Made Malala Want to Learn to Swim. So it's kind of a lot of like, what? What's going on here?
Okay,
But-
so let's explain who Malala is first.
Okay, so Malala is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. She's a female education advocate. She was
Yes.
famously attacked in Afghanistan.
Unfortunately.
Just trying to get an education, and she has
Right.
turned into a spokesperson for women.
An activist.
An activist, for sure.
Yes.
She's teamed up with a Korean-American filmmaker named Soo Kim,
Mm-hmm.
and they've made a film called The Last of the Sea Women, and it's all about the Haenyeo divers in Jeju Island.
I mean, who would have thought like Haenyeo and then Malala?
Right. Yeah,
Like in the same
so
sentence,
I saw that, I was
right?
like, okay, I have to know more.
This is so interesting. Okay. So how did this get started?
So Soo Kim is actually, she's the daughter of Korean immigrants. She was born in the U.S.
Okay.
And she first came across the Haenyeo when she was a child. They came back to South Korea for a holiday.
Yes.
And she was like, I was so struck by them for the same reasons that you see in the movie that I've made. They were incredibly bold, vibrant, confident. They were also very loud. They were fighting and laughing, gave off a lot of energy. And they occupied their space so unapologetically. That's very filmmaker talk. What she means is like they are proud to be who they are.
Yes,
I think that's the idea. And she fell in love with their vibe, their energy when she was a little girl. Stayed fascinated with them. And she said this was a version of Korean womanhood that I was inspired by and wanted to emulate. Thus,
Sure.
she wanted to make this movie.
Okay, so that's the director, Soo Kim. What about
Right.
Malala? How does she get involved in this?
She was basically asked to participate, so she's serving as a producer on the film. And she said she was so shocked that she'd never known about the Haenyeo, and like a lot of people that she did not know.
Yes.
She said yes straight away. So when she looked at their culture and how they work together, it reminds her of the collective work that are women doing other places,
Wow.
fighting for women for education, raising awareness about oppression. And she wants a girl to watch this documentary to believe in herself and realize that she can do anything, including free diving underwater for 2 to 3 minutes at a time with no air, with no oxygen. So, and she said in
Amazing.
turn, it's inspired her to learn how to swim. Because that's something she never knew how to do. So
That's something also that a lot of people take for granted, I think.
Yeah.
Like depending on the type of family and
Or where you
culture,
lived,
where
where
you
you grew
lived,
up.
right?
Yeah.
Like you just automatically think, don't you know how to swim? But
Right.
not apparently.
Right.
A lot of people don't know how to swim.
Yeah.
So this to wrap up, tell us a little bit more about the Haenyeo in this film. So
Yeah.
what's the focus of this?
Basically, Soo Kim really wanted to make it quickly because she realized like their generations are kind of coming to an end. So it's kind of about their lifestyle. It's about how they're really dedicated to fighting for their environment that they live and work in and don't want to see destroyed by pollution and other problems, climate change.
Important.
Really important. But
Yes.
also it does show a couple of new Haenyeo that have joined the fold. So perhaps they can continue. And it's all about like their lifestyle and their sense of community. And it sounds like a really fun watch, actually. Yeah.
Well, thank you for going over these amazing 2 stories. So fascinating. We'll
Yeah.
check in with you next week. Thank you, Casey.
Have a great weekend.
All right. Well, let's get to our final song of our number 1. So this is Someone You Loved, and this is by Bellin Pop Mage.
And this time I fear there's no one to save me. This all or nothing really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to hear, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. I'm going under, and this time I fear there's no one to turn to. This all or nothing way of loving got me sleeping without you. Now I need somebody to know, somebody to heal, somebody to have, just to know how it feels. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you help me escape. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you
부산 글로벌 도시재단 대표이사 전용호입니다. 부산은 대한민국의 굳건한 성장 동력으로서 물류, 금융, 영상, 관광, 문화, 디지털 첨단 산업의 중심지인 글로벌 허브 도시로 나아가고 있습니다. 이를 위해 부산 글로벌 도시재단은 부산을 대표하는 도시 외교의 플랫폼을 지향합니다. 세계 평화도시 부산의 브랜드를 강화하는 부산 UN 위크와 부산 글로벌 도시 포럼, 유라시아 도시 외교단, 개발협력 포럼, 그리고 세계 시민축제는 부산의 소프트 파워의 상징으로 자리매김하고 있습니다. 부산 영어방송도 시민과 함께 영어하기 편한 도시, 세계와 경쟁하며 더불어 살아가는 부산을 만들어가겠습니다. 시민이 행복한 글로벌 허브 도시 부산, 부산 글로벌 도시재단이 함께합니다.
지금 방송 광고라는 부메랑을 던져보세요. 소비자를 향해 정확히 날아가는 광고, 힘차게 돌아가는 경제. 부메랑처럼 다시 기업의 이익으로 되돌아오니까요. 방송 광고, 경제에 큰 힘이 됩니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi. Hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock. This is news highlights. Israel claims Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar killed in Gaza. The leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, has been killed in Gaza, Israel says. Sinwar is believed to have been the key figure behind the October 7th attacks and has been at the top of Israel's most wanted list. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, said they killed Sinwar in the southern Gaza Strip on a targeted mission against suspected senior members of Hamas at the location. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it is now clear to everyone why Israel insisted on not ending the war. Celebrations have broken out on the streets of Israel. Hamas has not commented on the matter. North Korea says its constitution defines South Korea as hostile state. North Korea state media said yesterday that its constitution clearly defines South Korea as a hostile state, highly suggesting that Pyongyang has amended its constitution in line with leader Kim Jong-un's order. North Korea earlier this week also blew up the roads and railways connected to South Korea, which were once considered key symbols of inter-Korean reconciliation. South Korea condemned the potential constitutional revision, reaffirming that it will strongly respond to any further provocations by the North. South Korea voices deep regret over Ishiba's offering to Yasukuni Shrine. South Korea voiced deep regret yesterday after Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba sent an offering to a war shrine in Tokyo seen as a symbol of its militaristic past. Japanese media reported that Ishiba sent a ritual offering to the Yasukuni Shrine in celebration of the Autumn Festival, the first such offering since he took office. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson urged leaders of the new Japanese cabinet to squarely face history, adding their actions will be the foundation of the two countries' future-oriented bilateral relationship. Ex-Seoul police chief acquitted over Itaewon crowd crush. A Seoul court yesterday issued a non-guilty verdict for a former head of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency, SMPA, over the deadly 2022 Halloween crowd crush, citing lack of evidence. Kim Kwang-ho was indicted in January on charges of professional negligence in connection with the crowd crush that killed 159 people. Seoul Western District Court, however, said that the prosecution's evidence did not concretely prove the defendant's occupational negligence was linked to the occurrence of the tragedy or its aggravation. Foreign Ministry strongly urges missionaries in Lebanon and Israel to leave. The Foreign Ministry yesterday urged Korean missionaries in Lebanon and Israel to leave the countries as soon as possible amid escalating military tension in the Middle East. Speaking at a meeting with 10 missionary organizations, the Foreign Ministry official strongly advised the missionaries in Lebanon and Israel to promptly leave the area via available flights. Last week, South Korea issued a travel ban on a wider region in southern Lebanon due to Hezbollah's intensifying conflict with Israel. And this was News Highlights. It is now time for Issue Wagger, which means Haley's back in the studio with us.
Hello.
All right. Let's talk about this. When you first put your home on the market, on the real estate market, you usually have an open house or you let prospective homeowners or tenants in. Apparently, though, some tenants, they refuse to let people in while they're living there, and that's a thing, right?
That is a thing. So, I have no experience with that, at least in Korea. We have gone to see someone's home, my family, before, moving into our home, but it's an awkward time. Unless it's like a full-out open house, which I don't think is a thing in Korea.
I've never seen it.
You call the 중개사, the real estate agent, and they arrange something, and you go as the kids are running around and they're trying to frantically pick up the toys and stuff, and you're like, oh, great! Can we take pictures, or is this a massive invasion of privacy because your stuff's here?
But then you also won't have a chance because you're you're trying to imagine your furnishings, your family in that home,
and also measurements and stuff. So because as a tenant, here's the legality of it: you are not legally required to show your home. And at least in South Korea. And apparently a lot of people are claiming this right.
Okay.
So then for the landowner or the real estate agent, it makes selling or renting out that home much harder because who's going to sign a massive contract without seeing the goods first?
Of course.
So for example, a 50-year-old landlord of a studio apartment, a one-room in Chuncheon, he or she couldn't find a new tenant to move into the unit because the old tenant / current tenant back then refused to open the door to let the real estate agent to show the unit. So the plan was, because in Korea there's a large lump sum deposit that is exchanged, the landlord's plan was to, get the new tenant's deposit to pay back the old tenant's deposit. This didn't happen, so he or she wound up having to take out a loan until they found a new tenant.
I see.
And the thing is, this is within the tenant's right under both civil law and the Act on protecting rental leases. So the thing is, but if you think about it, when you're just living there, if you're a landlord or a real estate agent just bursts in because, well, technically it is their home, but you also technically live there.
Right.
Well, that's trespassing.
It is, because you have a lease. There's a contract.
You have a lease, exactly. So that lease continues even if you do want to put your home on the market because the lease hasn't ended. So it makes sense, but at the same time, that means if you're trying to put your home on the market and show someone, that entirely falls upon cooperation from the tenant.
Okay.
And for tenants, though, and you might be wondering, well, wouldn't it be better for you to show your home so you can get your deposit back? For tenants, they can get the deposit back nonetheless because there are things like the Housing Guarantee Institution that will give you your money back.
Right. So we do see things from different perspectives, but what about from the tenant side?
Right, because it is once again a massive invasion of privacy, and there is a safety issue, especially if you live alone. And some real estate agents apparently ask for just straight up the door code to show the home to any prospective buyer / tenant.
I would say
any
no.
time of the day. I'm like, what if I'm taking a shower?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Exactly. So at this point, once again, it falls to consideration and cooperation. Interestingly, the top 2 comments I read, vastly polarizing.
Depending on who you are?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a tough one. All right, next. We love pandas.
We do.
I featured pandas yesterday. They're an important part of China's diplomacy, as of course was in Caspic yesterday. But this so-called panda diplomacy also has a dark side.
Right. And, we love looking at pandas and they're adorable. Fu Bao,
all the baos.
All the baos, exactly. The entire Bao family.
Yes.
But, we have learned this. China has ownership claims to basically all the pandas in the world.
Yes.
And there are 70 pandas on loan to 21 different countries. And they have to go back to China. The babies that are born have to go back once they are mature enough to mate. But experts say that while China, it has touted the goal of preservation and returning ultimately the endangered species that are pandas to the wild at some point, eventually there are more pandas in captivity than are in the wild, and some even die in the process of artificial breeding or get harmed.
Oh, that's not good. And it seems like breeding or reproduction, that's also a matter of just controversy.
Right. So let's come back to Korea. The pandas in that huge amusement park.
Yes.
The reason the mom panda, Aibao,
Yes.
was deemed a very special case, not just popularly, but among zoologists, because she and her mate, Labao, they mated naturally on 2 different occasions. So they have
Right.
3 babies. Pandas are only fertile for 3 days of the entire ovulate, I suppose. Whatever the terminology is for pandas,
Yes.
for 3 days out of the entire year.
3 days
3
out of
days.
365 days.
That is a
And
very,
they did it twice?
Very
They
slim.
love each
exactly.
other.
And
I'm-
they,
that's
and,
what I'm
the
gonna
second
think.
time it was twins.
Yes.
So so this is why it was such a big deal, because
Right.
it was natural. But then in China and also other countries, there have been cases reported, and I'm citing a New York Times article, where zoos try to artificially inseminate female pandas. For example, one panda on 6 different occasions in the span of 5 days. By the way, 5 days.
5 days?
5 days, 6 times in 5 days.
That's just...
If, as a human, if you know anything about artificial insemination or IVF, that's just crazy.
That's inhuman.
So in that process, one panda sustained injuries to her uterus, showed symptoms like vomiting. Well, also this is also bad for male pandas because they have to get the sperm somehow. And this method apparently included putting a male panda under general anesthesia.
To get a sperm?
To get a sperm. And he showed side effects for months on end.
Okay.
Even reputable facilities like the Smithsonian.
Oh.
That Smithsonian wasn't from alleged abuse for procreation.
Yes.
Panda Mei Sheng apparently went under 21 rounds of artificial insemination. A male panda in Japan died in 2010 after this process of semen extraction.
Yes, yes.
So the press outlet criticized zoos for hiding these dark sides of artificial means of reproduction for, essentially the purpose of baby pandas. And as much as we love them, we should also be cognizant because we love them and we want them to be happy.
We don't want them to be harmed.
Right.
Just so we can have some cute
Exactly.
baby pandas. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Oy.
Next. A war memorial in Australia is under controversy for one of their displays on South Korea.
Right. So this is the Australian War Memorial in Canberra, which has a section on the Korean War.
Okay.
And the exhibit has, among many things, it has a Korean flag in front of it, a child's traditional clothing from the Korean War. But that outfit does not seem Korean. It's
Oh.
not any Korean clothing that I've ever seen.
Okay.
And, the authority on this is Seongsin Women's University professor Seo Kyung-dok, who received a report of this and posted it on his social media. And he consulted hanbok experts, and they concluded that the garment is Chinese, or at least in the style of Chinese traditional garments.
That is not hanbok.
Cue our YouTube video. That's definitely not hanbok.
At least
right?
not any hanbok that I know.
Right. So Professor Seo wrote a letter to the memorial explaining, and he was very specific. Let's look at the collars. Hanbok has that V neck
Yes.
collar. The sleeves and coloring and the embroidery are not in the Korean traditional style. And he also added that this is a time when some Chinese netizens are wrongly arguing that hanbok is Chinese culture. So one must be accurate and prompt in correcting such wrong information around the world.
So let's hope that they do correct this.
Right.
As beautiful as that
Garment
clothing might
is,
be,
it's not Korean.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, this is a heartwarming story of a stranger treating someone to a meal, which is goes hand in hand with our text topic today.
Right. So this is a story that was posted on the Army's Facebook page. A career soldier, an enlisted Army soldier, an older soldier, it seems, was on a business trip to Gangwon.
Yes.
And he went out to lunch at a local yukgaejang, like the spicy beef soup place, with another colleague. They were both in uniform. But when they both got up to pay at the counter,
Yes.
the employee said, "Oh, your bill's been taken care of."
Oh.
They're like, "Oh, what?" And they said the employee told him that a lady at the table behind him paid for the meal, thanking the soldiers for their service.
Aw.
Well, he said he was really taken aback and surprised because we've covered similar stories before.
Yes.
But it's usually for young conscript soldiers who are obviously in their early 20s.
newbies, yes.
And the people who usually pay, they're like, "Oh, you remind me of my son," or
Sure.
"Someone you could be my son." But this soldier in particular said, quote, we're just two middle-aged men in uniform. So they said just to be treated to such a nice action, they said they felt really appreciative, a little bit guilty because once again they said they were older men in uniform, but also felt very rewarded for this service.
But maybe to someone else they looked, to them younger.
But then also,
regardless,
they enlist.
serving.
I mean, their service for their entire career. So
if they're career soldiers.
Exactly.
Even more so.
Right.
So thank you for ending it on a happy, warm story we like. And we will see you on Monday. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
All right, now it is back to you, the listeners, for our updated traffic and weather. It is now time for your updated traffic report. There was an accident on Dongpyeong-lo from the Yeonji intersection, the Yeonji three-way intersection, going to the Hamajang intersection right before the Yangjong Hyundai apartment. Also, congestion on Mandakdero from Sukdong to Deokcheon intersection. Also, traffic on Nakdong-Namno from Hadan intersection to Haguwon Bridge. Also looking a little slow on Yeonsuro from Suyong intersection to Mangmi intersection. As for the weather, it's currently 21 and it's going to rain in the afternoon, the forecast says. Looking ahead to tomorrow, more rain continuing, a low of 21, a high of 23. And then on Sunday, it is going to get much cooler. A morning low of 14 and a high of just 19 is expected. This was your traffic and weather. And this is 아름다운 구석 by 김종서.
언제나 아침에 눈 뜨면 기도를 하게 돼 달아날까 두려운 행복 앞에 널 만난 건
welcome back, everybody. Wait, let's get to our text topic for this Friday morning. So we've been talking about treating someone to a meal, as you heard in the last Wagga Wagga story. So some of your responses, Junwon says this: if there happened to be a 119 Taewon at the next table, so an emergency worker, someday he says, I would secretly order them a main dish along with a thumbs up. Oh, that's a great sentiment. I like that. And, maybe even as Taejin Waver said, being inspired to do that, he said, 저도 군인들 식사하면 미리 계산해드려 봐야겠어요. So I think that last story for Wagga kind of inspired a lot of people as well. So with that in mind, though, we're going to get to our special interview. I think this pertains to so many of us. It's regarding measuring blood pressure. So I'll be back in just a moment. We've all had our blood pressure measured before or maybe during a doctor's visit. But did you know this, that even small mistakes in the process could drastically alter the results of the measuring of your blood pressure? Something as simple as the position of your arm could mean the difference between a normal reading and a hypertension diagnosis, meaning too high of a blood pressure. So the guidelines for taking accurate blood measure readings may seem straightforward, or at least that's what I thought, that it was pretty simplified these days. But apparently there are, this can lead to misdiagnosis. So let's find out the right way to measure our blood pressure. Joining us is Dr. Tammy Brady, Vice Chair for Clinical Research in the Department of Pediatrics at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, also Medical Director of the Pediatric Hypertension Program at Johns Hopkins Children's Center, and Deputy Director of the Welch Center for Prevention, Epidemiology, and Clinical Research. Hi, welcome to our program.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours, of course. So let me ask you this, Dr. Brady. First of all, I thought, as a layperson in this day and age, that, getting your blood pressure measured, it was pretty kind of simple. And there are oftentimes, they put the sleeve on and it's kind of, they press a button, or, it's done that way many a time. So why is the position of your arm so important? Can you go through the basics with us?
Absolutely. And I think that was a great intro, because I think many people think that taking your blood pressure is just putting on the cuff and pushing a button, and there's just so much more to it. You need to really prepare yourself and position yourself properly to get an accurate measurement. Now, arm position is important because if your arm is either in your lap or hanging at your side, the blood vessels are at a greater vertical distance from the heart, meaning it's closer to the ground. And there's gravity, and gravity will increase the pressure in those blood vessels. And also, when you have your arm in those positions, it's harder for the blood to return back to the heart. So to compensate for this and to improve blood return, the blood vessels in the arm will constrict. And then also, when your arm is not supported, your arm is not really at rest. And so it contracts. And all of those things together lead to a higher blood pressure reading.
Wow. So what is the correct way? How should your arm be placed? Because you said you don't want it hanging or in your lap. So should it be, supported? In which way? Can you kind of explain to us?
Absolutely. Yes. So the arm in the optimal position is to have it resting on a desk or a table next to you.
Okay.
Such a way that the cuff, when it's on your upper arm, the middle of that is in the middle of your heart. And that's really like the middle of your bony part of your chest.
Yes.
So really, you need to have your chair sitting next to a table or a desk to make sure that that is possible.
Oh, really? So this might be new information for many of our listeners, because, we've probably heard you shouldn't be running and then sitting down and getting a reading. But the fact of having your arm properly supported is important, you're saying.
Absolutely. So we found substantial measurement error when you don't have your arm in that correct position. So having your arm hanging at the side could overestimate your blood pressure, or the systolic blood pressure, the top number in that measurement, by almost 7 millimeters of mercury. And that's enough to lead to an inappropriate diagnosis of hypertension and potentially getting started on a medicine you don't need.
So hypertension, that would be high blood pressure?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So just to clarify, so now in your study, with these estimated readings, why is this so significant? Because I'm thinking, for many people who have hypertension, aren't they sometimes prescribed medication?
Yes, absolutely. So an example of why this is so significant. So let's say you're somebody whose actual blood pressure or systolic blood pressure is 128. That's elevated, but not hypertensive. And so you would likely just be counseled on lifestyle modification and trying to manage your blood pressure in that way. But if you have your arm hanging at the side, the reading might be 135 millimeters of mercury, which is hypertensive. And if you continue to do these errors and have these inappropriate measurements, that could lead you to getting a diagnosis and starting on blood pressure medicines.
Ah, yes. And this is so important because the difference between making some lifestyle changes and adjustments versus, getting on medication. And for the medication that might be prescribed for hypertension, isn't it sometimes often once you get on the medication, sometimes it might be like a lifelong thing where you have to keep on taking that medication?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I'd like to hammer home with our study is that it doesn't just, these findings aren't just related to the clinic blood pressures, these relate to also home blood pressures. So many people with hypertension or who have said they have high blood pressure in a clinic are told to measure it at home to confirm or even help manage their blood pressure. If we don't tell patients about how to do these things at home, they may give their doctors and other healthcare providers wrong measurements, which then perpetuates the problem and they stay on potentially medications when they don't need it.
Yes. I'm also curious, Dr. Brady, I don't know if your study addressed it or not. Is there a difference in the readings between one of those at-home measuring devices compared to what we normally see in a doctor's office?
So our study specifically looked at a device that you can use for measurements at home.
Okay.
And so we use automated blood pressure devices. So this absolutely extends to the clinic or at home. We did not study the effect of arm position when you're listening with a stethoscope, what we call manual auscultation. We did not study that, although other investigators have and have shown that there's similar issues with measurement.
Yes. And so far we've been talking about the arm position. So now we know how to we should be supporting it should be supported, and where the cuff should go. But what about even things like crossing your legs, or, maybe you feel anxious because you have to go, and see your doctor for whatever reason. Could that also affect the readings of your blood pressure?
Yes. So a couple of things that are particularly important to get right when you're measuring blood pressure. My other research team and I, we did another study looking at cuff size. So It's really important to make sure that you use the right cuff for your arm. If you use a cuff that is 1 or 2 sizes too small, you can have an elevated reading by 10 and 20 millimeters of mercury, respectively, depending on how much smaller that cuff is. If you don't empty your bladder prior to measuring your blood pressure can be overestimated by 30 points. And then crossing your legs, it can overestimate by 15. And even just talking to somebody during the measurement can raise your blood pressure by 20 millimeters of mercury. So you really want to avoid all of those things. Sit in a chair with a back that's nice and supported. Your feet are on the ground, uncrossed legs, your arms supported the way I mentioned earlier. No talking, resting, and you want to do all those things to make sure that you get the most accurate measurement.
I'm curious as to whether, healthcare professionals, do they relay this to the patients that come in, especially for those who are measuring their own blood pressure at home? Because this is, for me anyway, pretty, new. Of course, I've heard about the whole, you shouldn't be like running into the office and just taking your getting measured right away. But even the whole crossing of the legs and you just said emptying your bladder. I had no idea you're supposed to go to the bathroom before you get your blood pressure measured.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, I have seen this in my clinic. Patients think I want a urine specimen, and so they're waiting. And then when I check their blood pressure afterwards, it's markedly different. So when I measure blood pressure, you know, and I'm a hypertension specialist, and so I do this all the time. When I measure patients' blood pressures, I tell them what I'm doing and why I'm doing it in the process.
Sure.
I move them to the right spot. I tell them why I'm doing that. For the teenagers, I take their cell phones away and I put them on the side. And then I make sure that they understand, and I make a big production of what I'm doing so that when they go to other providers, they can notice what's being done differently, and they can hopefully advocate for themselves. Like, hey, Dr. Brady did it this way. I'd like to make sure can we move the chair over here, or whatever they need to do to get the best measurement. And then certainly if I'm asking them to do measurements at home, I not only tell them everything they need, but I make sure they have a handout to remind them so that they don't forget, because there's a lot going on in a clinic visit.
Right. So when we talk about, you just mentioned teenagers just a little while ago, Dr. Brady. So this method of taking a blood pressure readings, is it the same across the board, whether you're an adult or teenager or even a child?
Yes. So all of these steps are essential for accuracy, no matter what your age is. Mm-hmm. Now, we haven't fully tested how impactful these steps are in kids. We extrapolate that from the studies in adults. But I will tell you, I did a study comparing the triage blood pressures, the blood pressures that are done before they come into the clinic room, with the ones that I obtain according to all of the established guidelines. And they were markedly different. So I think we can do a better job in the healthcare field to educate, to train, and to retrain the people in charge of taking blood pressure. And again, it is, just to answer your question, yes, it's absolutely important for kids as it is for adults.
So are there any other things that we should be aware of, whether it's, new technology or even, as you mentioned, the training? Because I'm thinking when you said training, like it's not usually, when I go to the doctor, it's a nurse or a nurse practitioner who, they're the ones that are measuring, my blood pressure. Normally my doctor, my primary care physician doesn't, measure my blood pressure. So is there a better way, do you think, that we can, get the word out so that, I'm sure they're very busy nurses and assistants, but for them to measure it really accurately?
Right. So again, I think a lot of people take for granted blood pressure measurement. They really do think it's putting on a cuff and pushing a button. And so I think it's important. So when you start a new job, you get trained on how to do things. Make sure that you're certified to make those measurements. But it really, every 6 months, that should be there should be a recertification process, because there's absolutely skill decay. People get caught in the routines. They learn, maybe behavior. Great. And so there really should be, and there have been studies to show that skill decay absolutely happens when it comes to blood pressure measurement, and retraining, recertification at those intervals is the appropriate time to maintain accuracy.
Dr. Brady, we have a question on from one of our listeners, Tommy, who is asking, being nervous, does this affect the reading of your blood pressure? Because I'm thinking, if you're going in and you're maybe got something checked out and you're going for the results and they measure your blood pressure again, but you're kind of nervous about what the doctor may or may not say, how does that affect the readings?
It absolutely can raise your blood pressure, 100%. So there's something called the white coat effect, right? And so you come into the doctor's office, you're nervous, and the white coat is amplifying the doctor. But absolutely, we know this to be true, and that is why our guidelines state when you have elevated blood pressure in the clinic, before giving somebody a diagnosis of hypertension, you need to get some measurements out of the office. Oftentimes that's in the home. And it needs to be done multiple times a day for several days in a row. And if those are high, all right, well, then maybe we do have a diagnosis of hypertension. But that's a key part, because we know people do get nervous in the doctor's office. But that's why education is so important of patients, right? Because if I'm not telling a patient how to do it right, and they're doing the same mistakes that potentially are being done in the clinic setting, you may get a bunch of inaccurate readings from the home. And so education is key.
Absolutely. And to wrap up our discussion today, Dr. Brady, because you're such an expert in this field and specializing in hypertension, are there things that we can do to make sure that our blood pressure, isn't rising, and to stay healthy, to make sure that we have healthy readings?
Right. So hopefully, there are many resources out there that can remind you of all the proper steps to measure your blood pressure. And so I would hope that that patients who are listening here will feel empowered to remind their doctors or healthcare providers that they should be doing all of these things before getting a measurement. And certainly if it's elevated, making sure all of these steps are being taken before the measurement. And then, the best way to prevent high blood pressure is to really engage in heart healthy behaviors, right? So, eating smart, meaning eating healthy foods, fruits and vegetables, low sodium, and making sure you're active every day, and really trying to avoid smoking and vaping because that really raises your blood pressure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and, in this area of just measuring blood pressure, things we probably didn't really know too much about, the logistics. So thanks for being on air with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was Dr. Tammy Brady, and we spoke about the right way, the correct way to measure blood pressure. And the thing that I want to take away as a non-doctor, as a patient is, if you feel like your blood pressure wasn't measured properly, it's okay to advocate for yourself, to speak up and say, hey, can we measure that again? And then make sure that your arm is well supported, as she said, that the cuff is at the correct position as well. So hopefully the health professionals out there, that they do all this, but if not, just to gently remind them or suggest getting another reading. So this was our special interview. We're going to take a little song break. So here it is, Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Morten Harket. And I'll be back in just a moment.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived. I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. Part of the way that I stand, there's nothing else to compare. The sight of you leaves me weak. There are no words left to speak. But if you feel like I feel, please let me know that it's real. You're just too good to be true. Can't take
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
I
love you, baby.
Our producer was like, I love you, baby. We're
I
like,
love you too.
I love you too, but it's a song. Hey, it's Friday.
Yes.
Are you trying to like tell us something with your outfit?
Yes. Yes.
Do I need to wear my Dodger blue?
Oh, yes, you do. Especially if it's the World Series, definitely.
Yes.
We're going to have fun with
We're gonna
the
duke it
meet
out.
there. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
But at the moment, my team is losing. It's game 3.
Not sad.
We won the first 2. Sad, not sad.
Sad? No, not really.
But we got two more innings left,
Yes.
so we're going to do it. We're going to win today. But
Yes.
keeping on sports, the topic this week. Oh, what is the text topic today, by the way?
Oh, by the way, today is all about treating someone to a meal. Meaning, if you had the opportunity to 대접해, like meaning treat someone to a meal, with whom, why, and what would the menu be?
I do this quite often. I treat people to meals quite often.
Not me. No. Okay. So who would you?
I've asked the producer for some samgyeopsal many times. And
And she says no. Slap down.
Nah, yeah. Or the New Zealand, yeah, nah.
So who would you choose?
Well, yeah, I've often answered these kind of questions in the past and left out an important person. So, obviously, my wife.
Is she listening?
Yes, she's watching.
She's watching right now. So,
hi, honey.
Your wife. Why?
She deserves to be treated well. Yes,
that's so sweet.
Out to a restaurant. We'd probably go out to a steak restaurant. Not many steak restaurants left in Busan.
Yes, that's really sweet.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're going to dive into
sports.
Oh, sports.
Yeah.
But it's not Sports Insider. This is What in the World?
Yes.
Yes, so.
I'm sorry, one more time. Let's do it together.
What?
Okay.
Ready, go.
What in the world?
Okay, so what in the world?
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
So, weird sports.
Yes.
Okay. So, quite often I ask Koreans, what is a personal question? And they often go through all these other things. So, one of the personal questions that is very personal to almost in any culture is, how heavy are you?
Oh.
So, this first story
is
about mud, beer, and cash.
Ooh, okay.
And it is the annual wife carrying competition.
This one, yes, I've heard of before.
So more than 30 couples competed in the North American Wife Carrying Championship last weekend. It's a championship.
How long is the race?
It's just over 250 meters. For Americans, 278 yards.
Okay.
Whatever a yard is.
That's like almost 3 football, fields length.
Oh, really?
Yards.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. 3
football fields. During which contestants splash through water. They run through water, leap over logs, trudge through mud. Why did I write that? Trudge through mud. All the while carrying their partner. Like?
I've seen footage of this, though. Like what, though?
I've got a couple of photos here.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So
is that the wife?
The wife is
upside down?
Yeah, upside down. Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's a good way of carrying your wife.
Yes, so that's the best one because this originated in Finland.
Yes,
and we don't have time to cover the story behind this because it's such a long story.
Yes,
so it'll take me a long time to finish. So if you want to check it out, just type in Finland wife carrying competition. It's a really nice story. It's a big legend, long legend.
Right.
But anyway, back to this. 254 meters long, 2 dry obstacles, water obstacles. Say the dry obstacles is jumping over the log or maybe even a hill or something. There is no set standard, so there are many courses around to get to the championship. Every state, or not every state, a lot of states have them. So traditionally, it had to be your own wife But
I would hope it's your own wife, not somebody else's wife.
in this competition,
You can carry somebody else's wife?
yes, it just has to be a wife.
I don't know about that.
So it could be your neighbor's wife.
No, but did you see the position that the woman, some of the
yes.
women were in?
Yep.
I would not want my butt on some other husband's, head. Yes.
But I won't go there. So
Yes.
one more point. The wife must also be over 17 years of age. Just
So no child brides.
So no child brides.
Okay, got it.
So most
Look
of the
at that.
participants...
Would you want your wife to put her bum on someone else's head?
Yeah, so let's carry on. Most of the participants use a technique, as you can see there,
Yes.
carrying them like a backpack with the legs up instead of
Upside down, yes.
Yeah, instead of like the Korean. What's the Korean word for
Piggyback? Obuba?
Obuba.
Opposite of obuba,
Yeah,
yes.
opposite of that, so upside down. So there are prizes for this.
Like, what's first place?
First place is, and this is why I was asking about the weight.
The wife.
Yeah, the wife's weight.
Someone's wife, yes.
Someone's wife. The wife's weight in Goose Island beer. Or in beer. So they put it's life-size scales. So they put the wife on one side of the scales. And then they just pack on beer on the other side.
Until it
equalizes.
Oh.
Yes.
No cash?
The second, there are two prizes for first
Okay.
place. And the second one is 5 times her weight.
Oh, so the heavier the wife
wife.
is, because it could be a bit of a handicap if you have like a really
course.
light.
Yeah, you're not going to
person
get
that you're-
first
versus-
if you have a heavy person.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Second place.
Second place, no beer.
What do they get?
Just the wife's weight in Americans
Soda?
say pop.
No, we say soda.
You say soda?
It's soda pop, but that's
Soda
like
pop?
Yeah, soda.
And
yeah,
I'll give you some New Zealand English. We say fizzy drinks.
fizzy drinks.
Fizzy drinks.
That's what you say in New
That's what we
Zealand
say.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Get me some fizzy drinks.
okay.
Fizzy. Because it's fizzy.
Yeah, it is fizzy. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
And a $50 Sunday gift card.
Okay.
Third place Sunday gift card. And then 2 more prizes.
Yes.
Number 1, best dressed.
Why you're doing this? They're judging on how you're
So
dressed.
some of the people know they're not going to win.
Yes.
So they go in for the best dressed prize. And
I get it.
Some of the guys were wearing tutus. One guy was wearing all pink.
And there's nothing wrong with
latex.
pink. Yes.
No, nothing wrong with pink, but just
Latex?
Yeah, latex. So it made a few things stick out. Anyway, and most average prize for the average.
You got to say the other one, the last one, though, the last category I love.
Okay, wipeout. The best wipeout.
You got to explain what's a wipeout.
A wipeout is, can we put the log picture back up?
The log picture.
The log.
So wipeout is
Log.
basically,
log.
it's not just falling down.
Not just falling down.
No, it's like,
Yeah, so you see here, it looks like he's going to make it, but let's say that
doesn't.
his hand slips.
uh-huh.
Okay, so if his hand slips, where is his the rest of his body going to land? That is going to be very, very painful, especially with the weight on top of his shoulder.
Yes.
We call that a wipeout. Or if he's running through the water and he slips over
Oops.
and face plants into the water.
It's like, pew. Yeah, wipeout.
Wipeout.
Okay.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
So that, in a nutshell,
Yeah.
is our first story.
And speaking of nuts,
Yes.
conkers. Do you know what a conker is?
Conquer. What's a conquer?
Conker is a game that it's an English game, but we played it in New Zealand as well. You have chestnuts. You have chestnuts in America.
Pum, yes, we have chestnuts in
Yeah.
America. Like, you're asking me, like, do you have chestnuts in
Do
America?
you have 4 seasons in America?
Yes, we do. Yes.
One question I was always
Okay.
asked here. Anyway, so they get a chestnut from the tree, including the stem.
Okay.
And then one person, they have 2 competitors, one-on-one. One competitor holds their chestnut, and the other person has to try and smash their chestnut.
Aw.
Okay, so we
how
call
fun.
that conkers.
Conkers, okay.
Yeah, so in the past, people have teased me about being interested in all sorts of strange sports for watching on TV. Like I like watching chess on TV, StarCraft's on TV, Scrabble on TV, and there's been accusations of cheating from all those.
Yes.
With Scrabble, and by the way, a New Zealand person is the champion of Scrabble. Scrabble.
Shout out.
Shout out to all those Kiwis who love
Yes.
playing Scrabble.
Okay.
They tried to peek at the Scrabble tile before they
they pick?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cheating.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Anal beads in chess, we've talked about that before.
Okay, move quickly from that.
Yep.
And then?
Just recently in chess, actually, last week, one person was disqualified for using his cell phone during a chess game. But anyway, the latest one is conkers. So they're investigating because one of the guys apparently had painted a steel ball and shaped a steel ball and painted it to look like a conker, to look like a chestnut.
A chestnut?
Yes.
To look like a palm?
Yes.
But it was made out of steel?
Yeah.
Like a sui? Okay.
Yes. So basically, obviously, if he uses that, it's going to smash
obviously
a real chestnut.
So they're cheating in conkers?
Yes. So I've got a picture of the champion guy here.
The champion. Let's see the champion.
Who's been accused of cheating. And it's a little bit sad because he's 82 years old.
Aww.
I wonder who else is 82 and cheats a lot these days. Yes, that's him.
He's the guy?
So that's how you play the game. One person's holding it there. You can see it dangling down. And then his technique is to kind of like flick it.
But he was allegedly cheating with a steel chestnut.
Yeah. So it was a steel one. So it basically, he said, one conker or one chestnut disintegrated with one hit. So he hasn't been disqualified yet. So there's no way to verify it because the competition was over and it was only afterwards when they saw him playing with his nuts that they saw a steel one in his hand. So carrying on, the next story involves egg throwing.
Egg throwing.
Egg throwing.
Yeah, let's go to that story.
Okay. So egg throwing competition, I think, is an excellent idea.
들었죠. 아재 gag.
아재 gag. I'm an 아재.
네네.
Yeah, my first 아재
Look
gag.
at the look of disgust on her producer's face. She's like, I wish we had a camera on our beautiful PD님.
She thinks my joke was excrement.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
Okay, this is held in England as well as that Conkers one was an English competition in the rural village of Swaton. So if you want to check it out, it is an actual competition. I'm not making these up. So if you want to look it up, just search SWATON, Swaton. For English people out there, if I'm mispronouncing this.
I was thinking, is it Swaton? That sounds very French. Isn't it like Swaton?
Yeah, it's probably Swaton or even Swan.
Yes.
The T's probably not even there.
Something silent in the middle.
A lot of silent things in the British language, English language there. But anyway, so the rules are one person throws an egg and the other person catches it. And it must not smash.
Okay, but we're talking about raw eggs.
Raw eggs.
Yes,
raw
not boiled.
Eggs. No, it's hard-boiled eggs, raw eggs. So they start at a distance of 10 meters, and then they increase from there. And I would like to say in this sport also, I didn't know this before I started writing, New Zealanders hold the world record.
Go Kiwis.
in all these obscure sports, we hold these world records.
I love it.
93.6 meters.
Oh.
Throwing an egg.
A raw egg?
A raw egg.
That is amazing.
So that was set in 2016 or 2018. I'm not exactly sure.
Exactly. Yes.
Sorry, she's not. Okay.
Well, thankfully, PD님, we're almost out of time. We got to say goodbye. We're going to wrap things up and say goodbye to our excellent guest today.
Thank you.
Vasana. We'll check in with you next week, though.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's time to say goodbye for today and for the entire week. And I do want to say thank you to all the guests that appear on our program. Also, on Monday, we have a very special interview. So, yes, it's not Vasana. Just in case you haven't heard, yes, it's that guy, Edward Lee. All right. So, have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.
And I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in a daze from your love, you see. I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. People go around the world for love, but they may never find
for love. You tried everything, but you don't give up. In my world, only you make me do for love what I would not do. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in the daze from your love, you see. I came back to let you know, got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Oh, I only want the best, it's true. I can't believe the things I do for you. What you won't do for love. You've tried everything, but you won't give up. In my world, only you.
Your Bridge to the World. BEFM 부산 영어 방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재